One's all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a self realization coach, insight speaker, and brilliant revealer for authentic growth. And of course, the author of the book, Root to Rise, none other than Miss Florence Doisneau.
Hi, good evening, Daniel.
Good evening, Miss Florence, and welcome on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here and most thankful to have an opportunity to share with you and your audience some of the insights that came up for me as I was working on this book. So, as you said, I am a self realization coach and great job on pronouncing my last name. I know it's a bit of a doozy, lots of vowels.
Thank you for letting me know.
It is really good, wonderful.
Hmm.
And so, self realization coach is inside the world of personal development, which really has to do about how a person can develop their skills and find themselves more competent, more proficient, evolve in the world. Self realization is about this focused on the center, on back to ourselves. And the point of self realization is to really have that peace in which we need to ground ourselves, in which from which we want to root in order to then grow our branches. And root to rise is a term that's often used in yoga classes. I've heard it many times. Root to rise, get your foundation, and from that foundation, let yourself expand and develop.
Expand and develop. Definitely. So, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Florence. Thank you. So today let's talk about the root to rise is such a powerful image. What does it mean to be truly rooted in the context of self-realization? Is it a feeling of practice or a state of being?
To me, it's a state of being, and that's the starting point of everything. We oftentimes live from the assumption that things are impacting us, and that's what informs our state, our feelings, our emotions. So something happens in the world, and therefore we feel sad or we feel happy about it. But what grounding into ourselves, what self realization is about, is looking at what really is happening in truth from the state in which we are. Everything flows. If we are in a state of equanimity, of well being, we tend to have natural resilience show up when hardships is happening. When we are in a state of well being, when we're in a state of wellness, everything is more bright. Everything comes across to us as an opportunity. On the other hand, when we are in a state of anxiousness, when we are in a state of depression, life feels more jagged. It looks more aggressive or challenging to us. So everything starts from the state in which we are. And what I find so important is to realize that we are responsible for our state and that we have a lot of agency as to how we show up every day, every moment in our life.
The book Genesis, Miss Florence, the books describe as a collection of shared insight. What is the personal catalyst that moved you from your own journey of self-realization to the desire to compile and share these diverse perspective in a book?
Well, I find that a lot of the times insights come in a very discreet way. And at some point, they come together, and that might be where we experience a shift or something transforms in our life. And it's been the case for me where last year I found myself in a pretty tough situation. I was not feeling my best. And that's when pausing came a necessity. And from pausing, I realized that I forgot what had already helped me out in the past. A lot of the things that I had been sharing and teaching and whenever I was facilitating groups, themes that I had been talking about and working on with many people, I had kind of forgotten them. And that was my opportunity to, like I said earlier, to come back to that realization, that state, the state from which I was operating was not optimal, and that it was really my job to come back to a state of wellness, to come back to my innate peace and well being and operate from that.
Operate from that. And thank you for sharing to the world, Miss Florence. The term can be sound lofty and final.
Mhm.
How do you frame self realization as an active, playful, and perhaps even messy process rather than a fixed destination?
That's a beautiful question. And I love that you said that it's a process. It's exactly that. It's a process, it's a journey. And you're right, the term self realization at this time doesn't necessarily speak to many people. And it's rather an intellectual concept than really an experience. I think that for me, serenity is probably what echoes the most closely what I mean by self realization. When I'm in that space of equanimity, wellness, well being, that's the unfolding of self realization. So, like you said, self realization being a process, it's not so much a final point where we get to and stay. It's whenever we find ourselves knocked off center, when we find ourselves a little bit out of balance, that's the call, that's the reminder that it is time to return back to that wellness, to that well being. And what I really care for people to realize is that it is something, one, that's already inside of them, and two, that is innate. So it's not something that we acquire by attending classes or by following somebody's teachings. It's truly returning to something that is already inside of us.
Already inside us, but we
Mhm.
need to what? Unleash it. Mm, must be interesting. So the essential paradox, Miss Florence, the path involves both deep inner work and expansive future building. How do these seemingly opposite directions, inward or forward, or actually support the fuel each other?
I truly think that it comes to the realization of the fact that we hold the reins. A lot of our suffering comes from us forgetting that we have power within our hands, that we have the ability to come back to that peace. For a lot of people, peace looks like something outside of themselves that they need to be in quest of, whether we say peace or love or success or confidence. It looks like something that needs to be acquired, something that you have to work for. And like you say, that's where it establishes a form of paradox. It's in the returning through awareness, the willingness to sit in discomfort, the willingness to ask ourselves questions, the willingness to make room in our lives, especially in this age where we have such a rich digital life where we're constantly consuming content where we have lots of noise surrounding us, it is truly the work consists of recreating some space, recreating some quiet time to be back with ourselves. And for a lot of people, that's a little daunting, especially when we don't have the habit of doing so, because before we feel back into that space of quietness, we need to go through a lot of layers of noise. Like sitting in meditation for a lot of people feels very out of reach. They turn off the radio or they turn off the TV, and left with their own mind, they have all these thoughts that are just whirling in their heads. And oftentimes this accumulation of thoughts is what causes the overwhelm. It's exactly what brings about the anxiety. And to recognize the thinking, being willing to sit with it so that it can be recognized as such, and and taking our distance from it, that's oftentimes requiring some discomfort. That's the work, so to say. It's the willingness to push away all that noise and sit with ourselves.
The willingness. Oh, I love that, Miss Florence. Envision beyond the goals. We're used to setting smart goals. How does this
Mhm.
practice of envisioning your right about differ from a standard goal setting? Is it more about feeling, sensing, or imagining future days?
The pitfall of goals is that they can be very anchored into our intellect. There's nothing wrong about thinking about our lives and thinking about the future, but when it's purely intellectual, it may be in disconnection with something that's true to us, from our that's disconnected from our desires, that's disconnected from our intuition, even from our wisdom. And so when we are looking into the future, there I think there is a lot to say about the necessity and the benefit of really sitting with the feeling of what we want to create. It can look pretty on paper to achieve a certain success by getting a job. We look at that corner office as something to reach. But for what purpose? How is that really going to satisfy something inside of us? If the corner office, so to say, is just a mental representation of, yeah, at that point, I will feel like I have contributed, that I have arrived to a point in my career where I I have achieved something worthwhile being, I don't know, being of service, or having provided safety, security for my family. That is something meaningful and truly connected our to our heart. But the corner office, for the corner office, it, like I said, has a disconnect. And from that disconnect, what that does for people is when they reach those goals that are mostly mental, intellectual, when they get there, there's a dissatisfaction. There's that feeling of what next? And they oftentimes, from that disappointment, feel very let down. So to me, it looks like when we are envisioning something, we want to be settling into the feeling, the emotion, the state that that is in connection with that vision. And also, it's important to see that a vision is something dynamic. It's not something static that is carved in marble. It matters for it to continuously evolve because life keeps on moving. Our circumstances change all the time. Even our desires are moving through time. We don't have the same likes and the same aspirations as we did when we were little kids, and they will change as we age. So a vision needs to be alive. It ought to really be in a reflection of something meaningful to us.
Something meaningful. Well, let's talk about the power of play, Miss
Mhm.
Florence. Play might be the most surprising verb in the subtitle for a serious topic. Why is it a playful attitude non negotiable for navigating the often challenging path of self discovery? Can you give an example of playful practice from the book?
Sure. Play is where the rubber meets the road. The first two components of the catalyst formula are really in connection to the emotional body, to what's on the mind. But then through play, that's where we bring in to the world what we had on our mind. So play for me is one, a way of not taking ourselves too seriously. When we start taking ourselves too seriously, that's when we fall in the pitfall of rigidity. That's when we get stuck a lot of the times because, well, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves or we see the stakes as higher as they truly are. So, from that state of feeling pressured or feeling anxious, we typically start feeling stuck. We come to a place of stagnation. When we think of children playing, we think of something dynamic and lively. When we are in that playful mindset, also, we are open to learning. We make more progress. There's tons of data that is showing that playfulness absolutely makes a tremendous difference in the quality of learning for children as well as for adults. So, playing is also an engagement. One example is you look at a game, for instance, a sports game, you have people in the field or on the court, they are in that dynamic. And then you have people in the stands who are watching. And those who are on the court, those who are in the field, they are the ones who are bringing on the action. They are the ones who are making life happen. And on the sidelines, people are only in an observational role. So that's what happens in life is we're either in life truly engaging and making things happen for ourselves, or we are stepping aside. And that's when we stay stuck in places of it could be places of nostalgia. It could be places of fear. It could be places of resentment or regret. So, play is engagement, it's a quality of learning, and it's an energy.
So, Miss Florence, as an author, what are your short term and long term goals as well as a coach?
Well, long term goals is to continue going deeper in understanding this for myself. Like I said, when I was writing the book, I to some extent I was relearning or deepening a number of things that I had a little bit put on the back burner or forgotten. So the book really helped me gain more insights. And I I truly believe that we're here all to continuously learn and grow. So the long-term goal is to continue digging into feeling more deeply into that state of equanimity. A long-term goal is to achieve unflappability.
Definitely good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author, want to be a coach like you?
every little bit counts. Every step matters. So everything that you do, everything that you think, everything that you say matters. So make every moment count.
Mm, definitely. Thank you for that advice, Miss Florence. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Of course, one that really made a big difference for me that I love and quote all the time is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. This book has really been one of those journeys that allow me to have a lot of insights. And I hope that Route to Rise will contribute to people in the way that The Untethered Soul contributed for me.
Definitely. Thank you for that recommended book. And let's talk about the evolving practice. How has the process of writing and sharing this book further evolved your own understanding of these three pathways? What did teaching it reveal to you?
Well, the writing, there's it's the same thing writing and being in front of a group. You want people to really get the point. So in order for things to be relatable, they have to be broken down and re-assimilated. So it really requires to truly understand it and be crystal clear on what what it is that we're trying to say and how it's going to be the most effective, how we're going to be most effectively conveying the meaning. So that, I think that's the beauty of the writing exercise, is that it has you sit down and deeply reach for what's in it for the reader, what's in it for the person participating in the group. You really want to put yourself in their shoes and see how you can help retrace what was useful for yourself. So that's, I think, what was really magical is in the writing. I really felt back into what the goodness, the essence of a number of insights when they came to me, and the insights that people have shared with me along my coaching years. And it's just been wonderful to tap back into it and bring it back to the surface.
Well, before we wrap up our discussion for today, Miss Florence, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in its sixth season as well. Comedy 101 third season, and food 101 in sixth season too. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in fifth season, science 101, sex 101 in its fourth season, and trivia 101, love 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship, and Bible verses 101 are my baby podcasts. So please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Miss Florence, the next chapter, having helped other map their path to self-realization, what is the calling to you now? Where is your own curiosity leading you next?
I really want to grow my online community because last year I realized how deeply I was yearning for the thought provoking, insight sparking conversations. And I've had the fortune to come across a really cool book club last year. And those conversations were so energizing. And that's been the motivation, was to create an online community where people can come and recharge, talk about ideas, share what is helping them move along the way, and truly catalyze what what brings about mental emotional shifts, what helps them shift gears when things are maybe a little challenging, or what helps them really feel wonderful be in that state of well-being. So I really believe that when we speak of uplifting subjects, when we connect on a deeper level, when we have fun in our conversations, there's something magical that happens. It's genuine, it's easy, and it can really carry us along the way for a little while. So that's what I want to do, is create a space where people really recharge. So that's the next chapter.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom through your talking through your days. So can you
Thank
please
you for
invite
having me.
yeah, so can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
Well, there's everything in one place on my website. You can find all the information at realizeunlimited.com.
Unlimited.com, people. Let's support Miss Florence Doisneau, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering coaching to be rise, and for sure, more and more empowering books root to rise will publish. So, Miss Florence, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.